Okay, we're going live right now.
That's fine. I don't care.
Your PowerPoint is open over there.
I need to have this showing.
No,
What is this?
you can X out of that.
What is this?
Where's your PowerPoint? And you're live on Facebook.
You telling me you see me rather than just the picture? Really? The video is on? I thought I turned it off to just show a picture of me. Yeah, because I took my camera and put it on the ground. It was really showing me, even though
No,
it, we went.
it just shows David here and it's black. It doesn't even show a photo. This is David here. So we're live and we have viewers.
Is my share screen up or no? Good morning. Welcome back to Slamdance, Movie Maker, Pierce Law Group's Producer's Legal Guide to COVID-19. I can have my technical people possibly come into my room and get the Facebook page up for myself. That might be useful to me to have. So please stay tuned for a moment. Here than this. Me to have. So
There's a little delay.
did that video show the little
Yeah,
Pierce Law Group
It
video?
did. Everyone was commenting that they can see it. Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, what happened to my Zoom meeting?
I'm not sure. Maybe when you hit start video, it'll.
Yeah. Okay. I promise third time is the charm. This is part 2. Part 3, we will start at 11 and be all through all those technical difficulties, the joys of Zoom and Facebook combined. Welcome. I know that we had an awful lot of viewers on part 1 of the Producer's Legal Guide to COVID-19. We will be having yet another one beyond this one. And today I actually have a guest to talk about production insurance issues. Winnie Wong from Momentous Insurance. We'll be bringing her on shortly. But before we do, just a few words about Slamdance and Movie Maker. Slamdance is honored to be working with their partners at Pierce Law Group, and I'm equally honored to be working with them to bring valuable information to our filmmaker community, especially in these uncertain times. After 26 years, Slamdance remains and will remain dedicated to supporting independent filmmakers. The Slamdance screenplay competition is open now, and submissions for the 2021 Film Festival will open on May 20th. I do invite and encourage people to recognize that film festivals that are continuing to take submissions should be fully considered by you to make submissions. In the event that we continue to be under these circumstances where the festivals are, don't go forward live. Many of them have taken an online approach, and they still, even the ones that took place this spring that were canceled, they still had their judges view the films and award winners. And there's something really special about winning some of the major film festivals that are out there, and certainly Slamdance is included among them. But if you get that film festival win, that's something that distributors will take notice of, and the public, particularly those that follow independent film, will take notice of as well. And let's face it, even some of the most prestigious film festivals, how many people are actually making it to a screening at that festival itself? It's a few hundred people that may see you even when you're playing at Sundance or Toronto. The true value of the festival is the recognition that you admitted to it, and of course, if the judges deem yours particularly exceptional, the industry always looks highly on that and can help with distribution. I know someone in my list of questions said, is it worth it to apply to festivals? And I honestly would be saying that exact same thing, regardless of whether my friends at Slamdance were a part of this today or not. So the Slamdance screenplay competition is open, and submissions, as I said, is now open. And then separately, the actual film festival itself, submissions will open on May 20th, which is right around the corner. And the screenplay competition, of course, that's just readers looking for the very best screenplays. And I do believe that this is being recorded and will reappear on the Slamdance website and possibly the Movie Maker as well. If you're a filmmaker trying to finish a project now, especially if you're in post or looking for publicity help, our friends at Movie Maker magazine have a program called Movie Maker Production Services, where they double your budget through partnerships with their sponsors. If you have a starting budget of at least $10,000, they can double it for you. All you need to do is email tim@moviemaker.com, or you can direct message them at moviemakermag. And all of that information is also no doubt on their website, moviemaker.com. That's just chock full of great resources. I'm a regular contributor and write their production legal articles that are up on that site. So if you are a filmmaker and you're not aware of moviemaker.com, that is a supplement to the magazine that comes out 5 times a year. I invite and encourage you to surf that site. There's some great tips for filmmakers. It's pretty much like a film school right there online. And given that real film schools are now online, all you might need to do is save that tuition, put it in your budget of your film, and read everything that moviemaker.com has available to you. Well, with that, there was a lot of questions I received about insurance and production insurance and how it relates to the COVID. So I am going to bring in Winnie Wong, who is the Vice President of Momentous Insurance, and she is she's going to answer a lot of our questions for us. Let me see if I have properly brought her in. I might have hung up on her. No, brought her in.
Hi there.
Hey, hello, Winnie.
How are you?
Great to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Winnie, we've got a lot of questions about production insurance and COVID. I think you need to turn your speaker off.
Oh, okay, hold on.
I promise people that on our desktop chat number 3, we are not having technical difficulties. I think we're good to go. And if you just don't touch the microphone, let's see, can we talk?
David, are you able to hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great.
Okay. So Winnie, why don't you just give our people a little introduction about entertainment insurance? It's just like a real quick entertainment insurance 101 for a couple of minutes, and then talk about what's going on with COVID-19, both current claims, tenders for producers that were caught up in production and were forced to stop, as well as where the future may hold, what the future may hold for when production resumes. So let me turn it over to you.
Got it. Well, I am an insurance broker. So one of the reasons why I'm involved is that I'm a middleman. So I work with both the insurance company and the filmmaker. And what I'm trying to do is place competitive, obviously competitive and comprehensive policies for all my filmmakers. The main thing here that is happening with COVID is it's, of course, halted a lot of production. A lot of folks are just not producing their projects any further. So the main thing that we have to do, I'm being interrupted, sorry. The main thing we have to do is, of course, help our clients with regards to claims. So we've had some civil authority claims, and those have been the main type of claims that we've gotten, where people are unable to come because they're safer, they're unfortunately not able to work any further. So most of these claims have been, of course, reported to us. We also have eminent peril claims where, there are filmmakers who are alleging that the filming of the location has caused them some difficulty, and it's an eminent peril, which means that immediate loss could happen. So based on that, those are the primary production claims that we've been getting. The status right now is that we're waiting for the Guild Association to come up with their standards, such as the Directors Guild, SAG, to come up with their rules as to what they want to do further. So at this present time, we have, predictions of insurance plans, which will be subject to COVID exclusions and increases of rates and et cetera. Anyway, some of the insurers are reducing their coverage and increasing their deductibles. Okay, and then fewer insurance companies may be, providing production insurance. So basically, at present, we have a standstill in where we're waiting for the Guild to provide advice. The other part of it is we need to, provide advice as to what would happen once production starts again. And our biggest thing is cast coverage is going to be required. Everybody has to take a test, the COVID-19 test, and as well take care of a temperature gauge of some sort. Daily temperature readings would probably be needed.
Okay,
Mask,
Winnie,
Yeah.
let's just, before we take a look at production resuming in the future, I just want to go back and slow down and to refocus on the claims that are being made. I was a producer. I was 10 days into a shoot.
Yeah.
Government order came. Everything stopped. Let's say I had general liability insurance and I had a basic prudent producer's package as well. What type of claim could I make under those policies that might arguably be something that the carrier could cover for me?
And that is the civil authority, because when the Safer at Home announcement was made in California by the governor, that is a civil authority where it's telling you that you should stay at home and not work or not go into work.
Okay.
So the main story here is civil authority has been the reason why we've got, various production companies that halted because of the announcement, and they proceeded to file a civil authority claim.
Okay, so now Winnie, is so I have insurance for if a civil authority shuts down my production.
Right.
Does that appear as part of general liability insurance, or is that a special part of the producer's package that producers get?
Yeah, it's usually a part of the production package. What usually happens when we place insurance for anybody who's doing film is, we place the normal, production policies, usually general liability, auto, and workers' comp. And the last thing is a production package. And the production package covers all elements of production. So we have cast coverage, we'll have, equipment rental, locations, props, all of that is.
Winnie, again, I know we have a lot of film students, first-time filmmakers, and quite frankly, just a lot of creative types that, don't really handle the nuts and bolts business end of production. So why don't we just kind of walk through what those particular coverage areas cover, like cast insurance. Why don't you, if you could just very briefly explain what cast insurance is, and then talk about the equipment and the film stock and the other types, so they know what the packages are. And if you could also, in talking about, say, what is in a basic production package, and then maybe talk about some of the more exotic things that they might need, such as weather insurance or things like that, depending on what the particular needs of the shoot is.
Sure. Well, a production package is created just principally to cover all various items that go into production. So the faulty stock processing, the cast coverage and equipment and props and sets and wardrobe and all that stuff. So really cast coverage will go first to cast, is to cover a, particular member or cast member that is working for the production for a period of time. So we are considering that individual to be a primary person or a very important person. So when we sign them as cast, they have to do a cast medical and of course see if they've got, any ailments and et cetera that need to be treated. So the cast medical will at least be the source of determining whether coverage will be provided. So once the cast coverage is in place, if something happens to that cast member, if they get sick, they get ill or have passed away or something to that effect, they would be covered. For the loss of the individual, there would be an extra expense loss and it would be reported to the policy and a claim would be provided. The other parts of the policy is prop sets and wardrobe, and that's of course rental of prop sets and wardrobe, and any damages to or theft of the props could be covered. There's also extra expense, which is usually there to pay any claims that might occur that cause extra expense. So that's included. The other thing that's included is equipment and third-party locations. So those are primarily very important because, you know, you're going to rent a location, rent equipment, and that is paramount in the production package. The other parts to that policy is, you know, lines of coverages that will protect you through the extra expense. And if there's a download issue where you can't download your negative or your film and you can't download it, there would be an extra expense for it. So basically, this policy is to cover every aspect of production.
Okay, so, and within that package, there is, there are a list of insured items that if your film cannot move forward or you go over budget because of a loss, that the insurance will kick in and cover that. So, for example, if you have faulty film stock coverage, if there was something wrong with, and I guess, well, today we're dealing with the digital cameras, but something messed up with the digital camera, or more importantly, more often that may happen today, the sound. Something might have happened with the mixing board, the recording, you just didn't get it, and you have to go reshoot those scenes. If you have that type of insurance element, the production insurance is going to pay to allow you to reshoot the necessary scene because of the recording mess up. That's pretty much how the insurance works with the production package, correct?
Correct. And
Okay, so now if it's more than just the sound, it's here, everybody has to go home. You're saying under this clause that says if filming is interrupted because of a civil authority action,
right.
The insurance company should pay out. So do you have some insureds that have tendered those claims?
Yes, I do. I have a lot of them, primarily because, you know, production halted. And so people are getting extra expense claims where they can't produce and they can't obviously get permits, etc. So here they're halted. So we are now filing a lot of claims under this production package. Civil authority is like a supplemental coverage, and it has, you know, very limited limits. Usually it's 250,000. There are some that have higher limits, of course, if they're higher budgets. So I have one particular client that's 30 million and their limit is $1 million. So we have been filing a lot of these claims because obviously, you know, there's extra expenses, there's costs for payroll, there's location expenses, and, you know, cast and, you know, crew, you know, expenses as well. So
and how have the insurance companies responded to these claims?
It's been difficult because some of the policy forms have like a limited 5-day term, like they'll cover only 5 days of coverage. So we've been, you know, having conversations with adjusters, primarily trying to decipher, you know, what the costs are and how to reimburse the, you know, production company. So at this present time, I've got 2 successful claims for civil authority. And one of them is obviously $1 million, and that one is going to be paid out. And the other is Coachella, not filming at Coachella, and some of these expenses are going to be reimbursed. But these are different situations for each client. So civil authority is the primary thing that we're using.
Well, I mean, but everyone, regardless of the productions, they're all subject to the same civil authority. And if they have a policy that says, you know, filmmaking is disrupted due to civil authority action, why is it they would agree to pay out to the more powerful, you know, under $1 million claim, which is, I'm sure, is a big, you know, studio or successful production, and kind of, it sounds like you're saying they're kind of giving the finger to independent filmmakers that are filing the exact same claim under the same same policy clauses?
I do have to say that the policy clauses are a little different with different carriers. So some of them have only a 5-day reimbursement versus, you know, others who have just outright the limit and a deductible. This is kind of the difficult problem. But for filmmaking, the independent ones are having a little bit more problems because what they have to do is provide all kinds of additional information they, of course, are going to, look over, review all of the accounting issues and the expenses. And some of that has been a difficulty because occasionally they'll say, well, that's not an expense. So we would have to we were going through every, financial, every expense sheet that they give us and, trying to determine if that is part of the claim. It's extra expense for the loss of, filming. And so occasionally they'll say, is this the cost that should be included? So honestly, it is a difficult process right now.
Okay, but it's good to know that at least the claims are being recognized and, you get over that first hurdle of saying, yes, we'll reimburse. Now we just have to figure out what expenses are legitimately reimbursable.
Right.
Are you seeing any insurance companies that are just saying, sorry, this clause does not apply? Or are all of them universally recognizing governmental authority shutdown applies, and now it's just arguing over what the amount is going to be offered?
Right. It is, of course, at this time, all the carriers are agreeing, obviously, that this is a civil authority because there's no way that they can dispute that. It's the same thing as when we went through the riots and we had to, obviously shut down, and the carriers honored that. So here, the carriers are aware of it. It's just a monumental task to just get the adjuster to agree with you and to, obviously make the client whole again. So it kind of, it is taking, it's tedious, let's say, and we're reviewing everything and working with the underwriters and the adjusters. But yes, you're correct. Every carrier is aware of the civil authority.
All right. So, and now, when you deal with a lot of independent filmmakers, do
Right.
independent filmmakers on a thrifty budget say, we only want the bare minimum insurance? Is this pretty much something that's in the bare minimum packages, the basic package, or is this something more exotic that someone would be paying a little more premium for?
No, and that's what I meant to say when we were talking about production package. Obviously, I'm trying to give you all the information. I've skipped over that. But civil authority is a supplemental cover that's automatically covered under the policies. Now, going forward, carriers are probably going to be giving conservative limits, higher deductibles, and may not provide civil authority. There's some carriers that they're saying that this risk is so big that they may take away civil authority. So as a broker, we have to make sure that the coverages are exactly what we've had in the past. So a lot of negotiation is going to have to take place. I have a feature film that was going on in Croatia, and it's 30 million. And they were saying to me, hey, we can't insure you. So there's one carrier that says that's too close to Italy. And there's others who are, so it's pretty much a negotiation that you have to do with literally everybody.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I thought I heard you say it's supplemental insurance, and then you said, but then it's part of the basic package. Is it something that every filmmaker has, or did they have to pay extra for it?
Right. If you get a full production package versus a short-term program, because usually the annual policies that we write will have civil authority, and that is, a part of the policy is automatically given. So that's why I'm trying to say it's supplemental, but it's automatically embedded in the policy, and you have a particular limit, usually about 250,000. So everything is, in this case, included in that production package.
All right, and then so fantastic. So if you were filming and it was disrupted, if you haven't contacted your insurance broker or the insurance carrier directly, you really need to get on that, because if you have a basic production package insurance policy, you probably have coverage for this, and then you just have to spend your time fighting over what expenses are part of that coverage.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep. And there,
what would not be covered? I mean, if it's my whole film is shut down, it's the entire budget of the film. What are they arguing over in terms of money? And saying, well, this is covered, this isn't.
It's the extra expenses, because they keep insisting that it's not the full budget that they're reimbursing. They're only reimbursing the expenses, the loss of, obviously you have payroll to pay. You've got obviously locations and different situations that obviously have to be paid. And those are extra expenses. So we're reimbursing those, and limits are, 250,000, and that's not a lot to reimburse, but we're trying to go for the max of that limit, because occasionally on the smaller end, we have, like, I'm working on $1 million project, and that is difficult because, they're looking at all the ramifications. They want to look at every single, expense and determine if it's reimbursable. So this has been, kind of a trying time, but overall, the carriers are aware that civil authority is in existence and they are acknowledging it. So the matter of working at it is what we're doing.
Terrific. And if you, would you like to speak real quickly about event insurance? If you're you were a concert promoter, or like Netflix was going to have this huge comedy festival occurring that had a lot of venues that were related. Do you deal with any of that, or you're really mostly just the film, television, digital media?
Yeah, I'm pretty much film, television. And so, what we have a department, obviously, that does touring events, obviously, are being canceled. And at this present time, what's happening is, yes, reporting claims and trying to figure out if there's reimbursement, if they can get some reimbursement. But overall, these policies obviously do not have something called civil authority under their policy. So it is a lot more about business interruption insurance and dealing with that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I think the next thing we should talk about is moving forward when production actually recommences. And I know that you were starting to say some of those things. That I think about what the new brave world is going to be for films. And I think the thing that people have to just the most important thing to remember is both the federal OSHA law and every state's individual state OSHA equivalent. They all begin with the basic general rule 1, which is employers have a general duty to provide a safe workplace for all employees. And this clause requires employers to keep their workplaces free of serious recognized hazards and is generally cited when no specific OSHA standard applies otherwise. So clearly the COVID virus is a seriously recognized hazard. Therefore, once production resumes, every producer has an obligation under both federal and state law to try to keep their workplace free of that serious recognized hazard, i.e. the COVID-19 virus. So if you're a producer, you don't need to scratch your head and try and figure out how am I going to do this and come up all by scratch. Lionsgate has taken the lead among studios and been the first to create a full packet of an entire safety plan for COVID-19 about what needs to be done. And I believe in my program, let's see, I believe I give you the, okay, right here, there is a website. It was reported in therap.com on May 6, 2020. So if you go to therap.com, May 6, 2020, they talk about Lionsgate's new production COVID-19 safety plan. And there is a space where you can download it, but you have to have that takes you to a separate scribed.com, scribed, SCRIBED. Is that right? Scribed?
Scribed.
Yeah, scribed.com. And I think that's like a subscription service for $9 a month, or maybe less than that. And through Scribed and punching in the wrap link, you can actually download the entire Lionsgate safety manual for COVID-19. So, for whatever the price of a Scribed subscription is, you're going to get one hell of a safety manual that you yourself could incorporate and see. And we're going to talk about some of the basic things that are in there. You should also note that the British Film Commission has also been very quick out the gate with drafting safety protocols on how all UK shoots will be coronavirus proof. And that came out on May 6th as well. And you can read about that at deadline.com. If you go to deadline.com, type in British Film Commission draft safety protocols, that will bring it up. And I believe that that is, free of charge. You can see what the UK has done. And also Tyler Perry is getting ready to open up his studios in Atlanta. And I'm sure he's there. I think you're going to see everyone really taking from one another, and it's going to be very industry unified. Some of those things are going to be, first of all, very, very strict monitoring of only people on the set are people that absolutely have to be there. It's going to be the end of bringing your friends and family and guests to hang out in your trailer. If someone does not absolutely need to be on the set, they shouldn't be on the set. Call times will be strictly observed. You just don't come and hang in your trailer. I mean, sometimes that's just the part and parcel of filming because you don't know when they're actually ready for you. There is going to be, the only people that are allowed to be with the talent are those that absolutely have a essential reason to interact with the talent. So that's your hair and makeup stylist, and then it's the other actors and it's the directors, and every other crew member has to stay 6 feet away. You need to, the producer is obligated to provide PPE, the protective equipment. You should consider the rubber gloves. You could get a mask like this. You can certainly get these masks as well. And have lots of Clorox wipes, have lots of Peril. I think the general industry standard has been announced that there's going to be a new position of COVID, safety director or person on the set that is primarily there to enforce these rules. Now, of course, I hope everybody who's watching this understands that the first AD is the person most responsible for safety on a set, that they're primarily responsible for it. And they're the ones that communicate the daily safety meetings and things like that. And so whether this is something the first AD can take on, or perhaps there's an assistant to the first AD that is earmarked specifically to deal with all COVID issues and to constantly kind of be keeping an eye out for compliance. That is going to be a part of productions in the future. There should be a daily safety meeting. If you're a producer, every day on the set, there should be a 10-minute safety meeting anyway. You hand out your, the cast sheet should say on the call sheet, should reference any unique safety hazard that might exist with this particular day. If it's, if you're in the desert and it's really hot, you want to talk about how to, how to stay hydrated and make sure there's water. You always want to tell them where the nearest hospital is. These are things that most first ADs know, and I'm sure many of you that have been in production know that you should be doing, having a 10-minute safety meeting at the start of each day. And those safety meetings are now going to have to daily talk about COVID-19 and give constant reminders to people about what the new rules are. So you're going, again, keeping distance from everybody, keeping the sets much more secure than they were. Craft services is now going to be, your meals need to be box meals. No more, getting in that long line at the buffet. Craft services should all be things that are wrapped and boxed and, have lots of Clorox wipes and Lysol sprays and things like that. Winnie, do you have any other thoughts that you have on those surrounding things?
Sanitation, like literally all the production companies are going to have to invest in sanitation, like having, someone come in the evening, wiping everything down. The sanitation stations have to be established too for the Peril and, the hand washing situation. But overall, it's going to be regarding sanitation enforcement of some sort. Everyone's going to have to enforce it. There's probably going to be temperature gauge testing and COVID-19 tests before, start a production. But yeah, overall, it's exactly what you're saying.
And you can all get one of these thermometers.
Mm-hmm.
And they're fantastic. They're really fun to play with. They're like, you can pretend it's a ray gun. And hey, 97.7. So I'm good to go here in my office. We are COVID compliant at Pierce Law Group LLP, and the clients can always have a Zoom conference and see us face to face. Just some highlights of the British Film Commission safety protocols. All crew must take a coronavirus safety training 2 days before the shoot.
That's interesting.
And our firm will be developing a COVID-19 safety training program. It kind of goes along. A lot of times when filmmakers are local, they'll bring me out if I'm the production counsel to give really like a 5-minute speech, which essentially can be summed up as be safe, be nice, and watch out for Nike. Safety, filmmaking is an inherently dangerous activity. Safety is everybody's concern. If you see a loose wire, don't just walk over it. Grab someone, make sure it's taped down, that type of thing. That's going to be expanded to COVID-19 situations. If you see something, say something. Be nice. That part of my speech is filmmaking, we can be under high pressure. There's a lot of stress and we feel like a family and we joke around, but we have to be aware that harassment laws apply equally to our industry just as much as they do in an office or factory situation. So my Be Nice speeches talks about, preventing unlawful harassment and how to properly report it if you feel you are harassed on the set. And watch out for Nike is my little clearance pitch, that it's a hell of a lot easier to remove that extra that has a giant Nike hat in the scene, to just have them take off the hat rather than figure out that we have to remove it in CGI in post because, Adidas gave us a huge product placement or there's some other reason, it's our big villain and Nike's not going to be happy with our big villain wearing the Nike hat. So that's always been my normal stump speech when I come out to productions. We're going to augment that to have a full coronavirus safety training for productions. So be aware of that. The London document also says you must have a designated COVID-19 supervisor, and they have the authority to call cut, to stop work if it becomes unsafe. That's extraordinary. The only other person aside from the director that can do that is the studio teacher when you're dealing with children and there's an unsafe work condition. There should be a daily briefing on best practices. I talked to you about that, your 10-minute safety meeting. And they suggest extra security hired to manage all points of exit and entry on the set and to make sure that people are mindfully staying 6 feet away from each other. Crowd scenes should be replaced by CGI to reduce the number of supporting artists on the set. Wow, wonder what SAG is going to have to say about that, but I think safety takes precedent over employment in that situation. Extras are going to be kept socially distant. I know a lot of times people just have extras corralled in like a pen you know, you're going to have to treat extras a little bit more with a little bit more humane fashion. Make sure that they almost have their own little, you know, private space the way your principal actors do. And extras should be responsible for doing their own hair and makeup where possible. Locations are going to be greatly altered. You can't film in crowded spaces. A scout should go ahead to make sure that the locations have been subject to a deep clean at the end of each day and before they arrive. And dressed sets should be quarantined for 72 hours before the set. So you set the dress, your set, you wipe it down with Lysol, and you don't let anyone come in until those actors are in those sets. These are the things that London has set, and I think you're going to see the same things in the Lionsgate protocols and some of the others that are coming out. Let me see if we can turn to some questions here, since we've got about 14 minutes left. And again, in 2 weeks, we will be doing our third desk side chat. Do you guys like that name? Pierce Lawton's COVID-19 desk side chat. Kind of a little riff off our Slamdance fireside chats, but I don't have a fire here. I guess I could put a virtual background of a fire, but with spring, I thought maybe we'll do it as a campfire. Maybe we'll make it.
That's it.
We'll keep the name Fireside Chats, and instead of the Winter Park City fireplace, I'll put a nice summer campfire behind us to brand this webinar series, which you guys are all being a part of, and say, oh yeah, I remember watching the first 2 episodes when they didn't even know what they were doing. Let's see. Is SAG going to have any new onset safety insurance requirements to use actors post COVID-19? Yes, they are. And again, the union rules dovetail with the federal and state rules that you have an absolute obligation to rid the workplace of this serious recognized hazard. And what happens if somebody gets COVID-19 during the filming? Well, here in California, Governor Newsom signed an executive order that says if any of your employees gets COVID-19 between the periods of March 19 and July 5, and the order is set to expire on July 6, although he may extend it, there is a presumption that they got the COVID-19 virus at work. And you will have to rebut that presumption and show that somehow they didn't get it in our place, they got it elsewhere. And that can be that's a very difficult presumption to rebut. In order to get workers' comp, the employee, the presumption is it is work related. You need to have a positive test or confirmed diagnosis recognized in order for that employee to collect workers' comp. It applies to all workers outside the home. It does not apply to people who are working remotely. You can't say, Winnie claimed that she got COVID-19 through this webinar when she's at her house and not at my office. And it also says if people voluntarily choose to come into the office, which some industries are permitted to do, if you voluntarily came in, you weren't required to come in, there's not that rebuttable presumption. Because maybe I went to a grocery store, the guy coughed on me and said, oh heck, I'm gonna better race in and punch my time clock so I can get workers' comp. It's a temporary disability under workers' comp that needs to be recertified every 15 days within the first 45 days. And if a death results, there are no benefits payable to the state. death without dependents unit. Are you familiar with what that means, Winnie?
No, I'm not.
Okay, I need to look into that a little bit. I just got the highlights of the order. And there is, if you're permanently disabled, there's a apportionment for workers' comp for that, with that as well. That is what happens. That's what's going to happen if if any of your cast and crew get COVID-19 during shooting. If if workers' comp is available, they're going to have to go through the workers' comp system. Up until July 5, it's presumed they got it at work. My hunch is California is probably going to extend that well beyond July 5 to benefit the employees. This could cause a real horrible burden on the workers' comp system.
Right.
It's also going, Winnie, what will that do to workers' comp insurance premiums?
It will, of course, the rates will go up, and that's a bad sign, because obviously any of these payments or any of these issues that they're going to be involved with, the outcome is always, with every carrier, is if there's a lot of claims, they're going to increase the rates.
Okay. Now, here's probably one of the most important things you can get out of this hour-long webinar, and thank you to the 100 people that are tuning in live. This is what you paid for the price of admission, although I know there was no cost to it. And that is, you want to absolutely make sure, I say this time and time again to all producers, your cast and crew must be employees. Do not treat them as independent contractors. First of all, the law is such today that regardless of what state you're in, if they are the primary function of production, they're probably, it's going to be hard to declare that they are anything other than an actual employee. You know, if you have a caterer, if you have some, an accountant, an attorney that's working on multiple films, accountants that are working on multiple films, caterers, perhaps cleaning people that come in, if they're not necessarily exclusive, there is a 20-point test under the IRS that you can go through to determine if someone is an independent contractor or an employee. In the state of California, it was known as the Burello Test, was another test that pretty much said, does this look like the independent contractor is really their own little company and has a great degree of discretion and control over what they do and when they do it. And the Burello gives a bunch of factors for that. Now, in January, California and a few other states changed their laws California got rid of the Burello test, and it's via this AB5, which pretty much says, in a nutshell, everybody's an employee. If they're engaged in if the whole reason they're at your work site is to create whatever your company creates to make money, they're deemed an employee. If they are engaged in the function of production, and yes, today still a caterer is not a function of production. It's a nice little luxury, but you could make a movie and get it to a distributor without them. They're going to be deemed an employee. There are tremendous back taxes and penalties for failing to properly classify an employee, an independent contractor. So many producers think it's just a creature of contract, that if the worker agreed, and the workers all want to be independent contractors because independent contractors don't have payroll tax withheld. Who wouldn't want that? It's not up to you. It's not up to the employee. It's a function of law. And what the reason I'm getting in this discussion is because if you treat them as an employee, which they rightfully are supposed to be treated as, if they're injured on the set, then their sole remedy is workers' comp. And if you're a producer and you're in a situation where a worker has been injured on the set, COVID-19 or otherwise, you much rather be in a situation where workers' comp covers that entire injury than to permit a non-employee to sue you in state court where damages are unlimited and and you could possibly see punitive damages, and you're leaving your fate to a jury that says, oh my gosh, that was so terrible, how could you have done that? Workers' comp is all about actuary tables. This is your job, this is your age, this is the illness you have, this is how much money you get. It's all just, a function of accounting and a determination of what benefits that injured employee gets. So this is one more reason why it is absolutely essential that you properly classify your cast and crew as employees and not workers' comp. Another reason is employees get unemployment insurance. Independent contractors are separate businesses. They don't collect unemployment insurance. Federal law has changed to permit unemployment in this COVID situation for independent contractors, but you can be certain the state is going to say, where did you get your money? Who were you last working for? And if the state says, wow, you were a camera guy for a production, that sounds more like an employee, yet you weren't listed on this employer's records, and you're going to have one more headache on your hands, because now the unemployment office is going to do an audit and say, why weren't you withholding unemployment tax? Why didn't you properly treat this person as an employee rather than an independent contractor? And unemployment is going to hit you with back taxes and penalties that could bankrupt an organization. And prior to COVID-19, we used to worry about maybe one or two workers who were misclassified as an independent contractor, inadvertently filing an unemployment claim and alerting unemployment that the company did wrong, and having to suffer the consequences of all that because of that very innocent reporting that the worker made. Now you have everybody and their brother filing unemployment. And if they keep seeing time and time a claim with your company as the employer, and they have no records, the state is dead broke. The federal government is dead broke. They want reimbursement. They're going to come seek it from you, the employer. So that's worth the price of admission right now into that webinar. Make damn sure that everybody on your cast and crew are treated properly, classified as employees, not independent contractors. You think you're going guerrilla filmmaking and you're pulling the wool over people's eyes, and you're saving a lot of money by just paying them directly rather than having a payroll service and withholding all the taxes and stuff. I'm telling you, it is no cost savings whatsoever. The risk is far too great. If you have investors and you're using investors' money, they're not going to be happy to learn, how deep into government penalties you're going to get if you've misclassified a worker. As we approach the hour, let me just see what other really good meaty question is out here, sticking just on the insurance issues. Our next desk side chat or fireside chat will focus on how financiers are viewing COVID-19. So check your local listings, continue to check the Slamdance and Movie Maker Facebook pages and websites for our next fireside desk side chat. What would be a good question to end on? Will small film projects be able to start up quicker than big film projects?
Sure.
Consult your production counsel. Winnie, you want to take ahead of that?
Smaller productions will be actually going forward, because we have a lot of productions that are from $1 million to $5 million, and they are still coming into the frame with regards to production. So the only thing that will probably be needed is obviously some information. So the underwriters are probably going to need a description of the various productions, what you're going to do, where you're going to film, do you have any stunts, and what kind of conditions will you have, meaning will you take care of some safety and some obviously regulations with regards to coronavirus. So the main thing here is that when it comes to fruition, the bigger projects have more, obviously more people, and the smaller projects have less people. And that's basically it. The short-term film, I did check in with the, and they're willing to insure it. They don't have any additional questions. So the short-term is going to be able to, produce productions.
And again, so much is going to be subject to the government permitting you to return to work.
Right.
Certainly, yeah, the smaller the film, the less people, those are going to be the ones that are first out. I have included in this presentation, which will be online for you to copy, or you can email me at David@Pierce, Pierce, LLP, P as in partner.com, David@PierceLLP.com, and ask for any of these relevant articles. I can forward you these jump sites for the different websites that have the relevant articles of interest relating to recommencement of production. There's the article about Tyler Perry's Atlantic Studios. There's the an article about the LA County public health supervisor talking about keeping things the same and moving forward. There's a beautiful article in deadline.com that talks an interview with Randall Emmett about shuttering his production and how they're going to restart. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to sequester all of their actors and the makeup and hair people. So they're going to live all together, and they are not going to intermingle with any of the other cast and crew, and they'll be shuttled together, and they're all going to just live together when that recommences. I thought that was a neat idea that employers should consider. And you could do that with every department. The whole art department is going to shelter together and only interact with each other when not on the set. And then when in the set, they're going to be all in one specific area. And then you have your camera people treated the same way. Let me see. We have, I'll just give you, there's, well, we saw that. Oh, here's Florida releases their recommendations for filming, and that came out April 30. So Florida's given the green light to people to start filming again, and they have their own set of rules. And again, you can rewatch and get a copy of that website. Where that article is found on deadline.com, or you can email me and I can forward it to you. Force majeure was something we talked about in our first fireside chat, and I would just repeat again that that is a contract term. There is no such thing as just a universal definition for force majeure. The contracts define it, and it appears in the SAG-AFTRA contract, and that's causing a lot of producers fits because SAG-AFTRA is trying to say that the coronavirus is not an act of God, and I don't necessarily agree with it. You can subscribe to whatever belief you want, be it religion or Darwin's theory of evolution. This virus is a entity that did not exist 4 months ago, and it exists in killing people now. If that's not an act of God, I'm not quite sure. That's who creates life. And if you want to play technicalities and say, well, according to Darwin, it's evolution, I think a court would probably say, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want on how life is created. That's what that term is intended to be, to mean. And it's a natural disaster. You can call it Mother Nature if you like. It is a product of Mother Nature. And that argument shows that people will be fighting over force majeure clauses, and there's no such thing as boilerplate, or there shouldn't be. You got to read your contracts carefully. You got to draft your contracts carefully. And force majeure needs to be written in a very careful way. Decide whether you as producer want this to be a force majeure event, or you don't want it to be a force majeure event. And sometimes I have some clients that are arguing this is a force majeure, others that want to argue it's not. Figure out what's right for your particular contract situation, work in conjunction with an entertainment attorney, and craft it specifically with reference from here on in. Every other contract, force majeure should mention COVID-19 one way or another. It either is going to be in, or you say we're expressly excluding it from the force majeure events. And here's what happens if it occurs. I do still owe you money, or I don't owe you money. And we also talked last week about the doctrine of frustration of purpose and impracticality, the doctrine of impossibility and impracticality, and the contractual obligation to comply with all laws and regulations. These are all different things that people usually don't give 2 seconds thought about when they're entering contracts, but they can come into play when there are contract disputes today over the COVID-19 shutdown. I'm not going to go into great detail. We went into great detail with it at our last session. Entertainment attorneys can, provide those answers. If you have specific questions about force majeure, that type of thing, please write to me at david@piercellp.com. We'd be happy to, provide you a little more insight and answers. With that, that's going to conclude our second hourly desk side or fireside chat, sponsored by Slamdance and Movie Maker magazine. They've been a vital part of the independent film community, as has Pierce Law Group, and we've had long, extended relationships with both of those organizations, and we love the fact that we continue to do so. I know Winnie has served as insurance broker on many of my clients' films, and what I most like about Momentous and Winnie is she doesn't just sell the policies. She really sticks with producers to pursue the claims, and not all brokers do that. They're there to sell the policy, and then when you have a claim, they're like, hey, take it up with the adjuster directly. Winnie really gets in there and tries to make sure her clients have coverage. And she's written a book for independent filmmakers. Why don't you give you a little pitch out to your book, Winnie?
It is out as of 2013, and it's Hollywood production techniques. So it's all about independent film.
So, and that can be, you don't have to go out to your bookstore. You can probably get it off of Amazon.com.
Yep.
Any final thoughts to our viewers before we sign off, Winnie?
Well, no, it's a tough time. It's just sticking to everything, making sure that you communicate to everybody, insurance brokers, attorneys as well, because we're the ones who are going to try to shepherd everything and give you the guidance you need.
And producers, boy, you've got to wear a lot of hats.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you've just got one more hat of, being an emergency room physician and understanding, biology and how this COVID-19 virus works and how to keep places clean. This is just one more hat that goes on top of your head. But no, just like every other aspect of independent filmmaking, you don't have to go it alone. Yeah, the buck stops with the producer, but surround yourself with intelligent, knowledgeable, experienced people, and you can start spreading some of those hats around so it's not all hanging heavy on your head. I hope you guys enjoyed this this chat, and please tune in on our next one. Slamdance Movie Maker. Watch their Facebook pages and websites for more information on when the next one's up. Stay safe and wash your hands. Bye. Bye-bye, Winnie.
Bye.